So we're going to complete the second half of the video. I'm going to try to go through as many of these as I can. Hopefully this will help you through this. I know it's difficult, so hang in there. Don't get too frustrated. I know it can be frustrating, but I just want you to just try to hang in there for me, okay? All right, so as a review, we're writing the equation of a line perpendicular to a given line. So the first thing we need to do is determine the slope of this line. Luckily, all these lines are in slope intercept. So my slope is right here, okay? And let's also remember that perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. Remember, that means change the sign, flip the fraction. Okay, so first thing I need to do is determine the slope of the line that I have. So the slope of the line that I have is 4/3, but I need the perpendicular slope. So that perpendicular slope is, if this is positive, I make this negative, and then I flip this fraction. So it's 3/4, negative 3/4. Okay, I don't go back to this line at all or use this slope ever again. I plug this into my point slope equation, all right, which is right here, and then I want to transfer it into this because that's the equation. We always want our lines in slope intercept form. So I'm going to do y minus y1, which is 0, is equal to m, which is negative 3/4. Remember, we don't use this again, times x minus x1, which is 4. Again, when you're distributing here, you can use your calculator. I don't need it right now for this one, so I get y is equal to, y minus 0 is always just y, negative 3/4 times x. I'm going to distribute this in here, plus 3. Okay? So negative 3/4 times negative 4 is a positive 3. You can use that you can check your calculator, use your calculator to check that anytime. Okay, so again, my slope here is 2/5. My perpendicular slope is, I'm going to flip it and change the sign, so it's negative 5/2. So I'm going to use my calculator with this one. So I have y minus 5 is equal to my slope. Remember, always go to this slope, your perpendicular slope. We don't use this again. Is equal to negative 5/2 times x minus 5. I'm sorry, minus negative 5. Okay, so I've got y minus 5 is equal to negative 5/2 times x plus 5, because that turns into a positive. And then I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So, and use my calculator here. So I've got y minus 5 is equal to negative 5/2 x. And then I do negative 5/2 times 5. So that's going to be 25/2. So that's minus 25/2. And then I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And this is what's nice is that if I just add 5 here, I get negative 15/2. So y is equal to negative 5/2 x minus 15/2. So remember, 5 is equal to 10/2, right? So that's how that came out. All right, so this is our equation. Okay, so once again, let's keep going. This is my x and my y, and my slope is right here. So my slope is 5/3, but I don't need that one. I need my perpendicular slope. And that, my friends, is -3/5. Okay? So then I plug this into point slope. So it's y minus -1 is equal to -3/5 times x minus -5. All right, simplify and change your signs. I get y plus 1 is equal to -3/5 times x plus 5. And then I distribute that -3/5 right here. So I get y plus 1 is equal to -3/5 x minus 3. All right, and then I subtract the 1. So y is equal to -3/5 x minus 4. If you think you've got this, all right, let's go ahead and actually let's just go ahead and determine the slope of this line. So this line is 4, so my perpendicular slope is going to be -1/4. Okay, so why don't you guys give it a try to do number 14? Go ahead and pause the video and give it a shot. Okay, don't get too frustrated if you didn't get very far because it sometimes takes time. So each one of these, you want to be getting further and further on your own. So let's just keep doing that. I'm going to tell you to pause the video and we'll go from there. So here's my x and my y. So I'm going to do y minus y1 is equal to -1/4 times x minus 1. Now this one is easy enough. I've got y minus 1 is equal to -1/4 x plus 1/4, right? But if I want to add 1 to that, it's actually 5/4, but let's double check. So I can always do this. Alpha y equals, and I have 1/4, oh shoot, and then I add 1, and that's 5/4. Okay? So remember, you can always use your calculator. Y is equal to -1/4 x plus 5/4. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so my slope is 5, and my perpendicular slope is -1/5. Okay? So I'm going to do y minus y1, which is 2, is equal to your slope, which is -1/5, times x minus x1, which is -5. Be very careful with this. These are some of the little mistakes I'd see, people forgetting to do minus and negative and then simplifying it. That's why I always told you guys to substitute first, then simplify, then distribute, right? So y minus 2 is equal to -1/5 x minus 1, and then I just add 2. So y is equal to -1/5 x plus 1. Okay, take a minute and determine what the slope of this line is. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, the slope of this line should be 1, and the perpendicular slope is just -1, okay? Because 1/1, if I would this as a fraction, reciprocal of that would also be 1/1, so the opposite reciprocal would be -1/1, which is just -1. Okay, and then let's plug it in. So I do y minus y1 is equal to my slope, which is -1, times x minus x1. I'm going to go ahead and simplify, then distribute, and then subtract. Now, hopefully you guys are doing these on your own and you are checking as you go through, as I go through these, how your answers are. Go ahead and give number 17 a try. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so my slope here is 1/3, and my perpendicular slope will be -3. That actually makes it a little bit easier to plug it into point slope. So it's y minus 4 is equal to my new slope, which is -3 times x minus -2. All right, then I simplify. X plus 2. Then I distribute. And then I add. So y is equal to -3x minus 2. All right? Hopefully this is getting easier. Okay, so this is x1, y1, and my slope here is 5. So my perpendicular slope is -1/5. Okay, I'm going to plug this in. Y minus -3. Remember, guys, after you've created your perpendicular slope, you don't go back to this slope or this line ever again. You just use this new point and this new slope. Okay? So my slope is -1/5 times x minus -5. And then I change these two addition signs, so that's y plus 3 equals -1/5 times x plus 5. And then we distribute this guy right here. So y plus 3 equals -1/5 x minus 1, because -1/5 times 5 is -1, and then I subtract the 3. Okay, because I changed it to positive. The biggest thing here, guys, is to make sure you show all your work and that you understand how I'm doing this. And if you need to, go ahead and label what we did to each step. Okay? We've done this a lot, and you guys just need to get to the point where you're comfortable, and that's just going to take repetition. I wish it was easier than that, but that's not the case. Okay, so my slope for this line is 5/2, and my perpendicular slope is -2/5. Okay, I don't use this, and if you want to, cross that out and cross that out too, so that you know not to go back to it. So you're going to go y minus -5 is equal to -2/5 times x minus 1. Probably going to need to use my calculator here, which is no problem. That's why we have it. So we're going to go ahead and distribute. So y plus 5 equals -2/5 x plus 2/5. And then I'm going to subtract 5. And again, just using your calculator makes life so much easier. You've got 2/5, and I'm going to subtract 5, and I get -23/5, because 5 is equal to 25. So it's now y is equal to -2/5 x minus 23/5. And look at this last guy. So my slope is -3/2. My perpendicular slope is going to be 2/3. Again, I'm probably going to use my calculator because I'm not going to have any pretty numbers here. So here's my x and y. Cross this out and cross this out. So y minus -4 is equal to a positive 2/3 times x minus -5. And I told you guys that you can skip this step and go right making these two negatives a positive if you're comfortable with it. But if you're not, just go ahead and write it out. There's nothing wrong with taking your time. You guys have unlimited of time on your test, as long as it's reasonable. And I'm going to do that. Okay, so we distribute the 2/3, okay? And I'm going to just use the calculator, even though I don't need to, but I think it's important that you guys use your calculator, so to avoid any math errors. So you have 2/3, so alpha y equals, I've got 2/3, and I'm going to multiply that by 5. So that's times 5. So that's 10/3. So that's plus 10/3. And then I'm going to subtract 4. So what's nice is I can just do that, and I get negative 2/3. So y is equal to 2/3 x minus 2/3. All right. Now, hopefully you guys are comfortable with these parallel and perpendicular lines. Definitely really important. Now, I've only got 16 minutes in this video. I'm going to just go ahead and do these last 2 parallel lines. So if you haven't completed this whole packet yet, you can go ahead and do that. So remember the parallel lines have the same slope. So my slope of this line is 1/3. And my parallel slope is exactly the same. Here's my x and here's my y. So y minus y1 is equal to 1/3 times x minus x1. I go ahead and distribute. Y minus 3 equals 1/3 x minus 1. And then I add that 3. Y equals 1/3 x plus 2. What we're doing here is solving for y. Okay, last one. My slope right here is 4, so my parallel slope is exactly the same. Here's my x and my y. So y minus 5 is equal to 4 times x minus 2. Then I'm going to distribute. Y minus 5 is equal to 4x minus 8. All right. And then I'm going to add 5. Be careful with the negatives here. So this is going to be y is equal to 4x minus 3. And that's done. That should complete your whole packet for parallel and perpendicular lines. And hopefully you're a lot more confident from going on from here. It's very important that you guys get this down and make sure you have this down before you retest. Okay? You're going to turn this whole packet into me after you've completed it so that you can retest. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.